an old Irish prayer that says, "Deliver us, O Lord, from ghoulies and ghosties and long-legged beasties and things that go bump in the night."
I used to do bookkeeping back in the back office there for one of the galleries. It was where the solitary confinement cell is, and there's a big, heavy door with locks on it. And I every once in a while I would smell what smelled to me like burnt flesh, and that has a very distinctive odor, and when you smell it, you don't forget it. And once you get it in your nose, it's really hard to get rid of. I thought about it and then I discovered that a man, an Indian man, I guess, that they had picked up and put in the solitary confinement cell. He was such a regular there that they didn't bother to take his belt and his shoelaces and his lighter from him. And he took the fuel from the lighter and set himself on fire. And because the gate was so big and so heavy, they couldn't get the door open in time to put him out, and he died.
Over these years that I've been here in Taos, I've heard a few stories about people having experiences on Bench Street, especially at night, with what people would consider ghosts. There have even been stories about ghost horses, and one person said that they could be the remnants from some kind of an essence of the dragoon horses that had been stabled and kept in that central area there many years before, when that would have been the 19th century, with when the first United States military came in with the dragoons. Well, they were mounted soldiers, and they also relate that the reason a lot of horses that get loose in Taos area congregate in that place because they sense the essence of these old dragoon military horses that used to be stabled in that area. And then another story that was told to me by a police officer who's now retired said that he was patrolling the Bent Street area, and it was at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he noticed a woman walking by herself on the street, and he was thinking, well, what is she doing alone at this time of the night, a very early morning? So he got off of his police car and wanted to approach her and ask her if she needed help, because she was alone at a very late hour. And he said as he approached her, she was wearing Victorian style clothing from the Victorian era, and that as he approached her and started asking, "Ma'am, do you need any help?" that she just dissolved into thin air.
And the Lord of the Willow says, "Cristo poderoso, deliver us from all harm. Líbranos de todo mal, de robos en camino real, from highwaymen robberies, de vecinos que intenten hacernos mal, and from bad neighbors." The worst thing you could have, the scariest thing you could have in New Mexico was a bad neighbor.
Well, there's the story that comes to mind of the students who saw at the Martinez Hacienda, who were doing a school project with their teacher, along the river. They got very scared because they saw this young boy wearing clothing like from the mid-19th century and a straw sombrero, walking along the edge of the river. And when they tried to ask him who he was and where he was coming from, he also disappeared and left these students quite scared, and their teacher with no explanation of why they were seeing this young boy walking along the edge of the river by the Martinez Hacienda. And they asked some of the employees there, and they told them that several people had told them they had seen a little boy walking along the river, and they didn't know who he was, and that he was dressed in clothing from the 19th century, and that there was a tradition that years ago a young boy had gotten drowned playing along that river. Water came high, and that he was swept away, and before anybody could rescue him, he drowned.
Everywhere that you drive in New Mexico, there are descansos. These descansos are places where souls have been spilled along highways and byways and caminos all over town. I was recently gassing up at one of the gas stations, and the lady said to me, Senor Torres, I have something to tell you. What? I came in from Cuesta, and I've seen a man. She says he stands by the side of the road, and the minute that I pass, he waves and disappears as the car passes by. I said to her, is there a cruz? Is there a descanso by the side of the road? She said, I don't know. I said, why don't you go check? So she went and found one lying on the ground. It had been knocked over. The place where she saw it is right across the street from Mr. Gorman's place. They're coming into town. Well, she said, what is this creature? And I said, this is called a descarnado. Descarnados at this time of the year walk the streets of town. They are spirits that are trying to find their way back home. You will never pick up a hitchhiker this time of the year within 33 feet of one of these fallen crosses. 33 feet is what they're allowed to wander around the cross until somebody directs them. So she took me back. We re-erected the cross. I said the prayers for the dead, and she never saw him again. Descarnados, the unfleshed ones, are all over the place in New Mexico at this time of year.